Our next speaker is Pastora Valero from Cisco, director at Cisco, who is going to, I understand, give a raft of figures in relation to fixed broadband usage based on the last 5 years of the study that Cisco has been conducting. I should also add, unfortunately, Andrea Render is ill, and so he's not able to join us. Andrea was going to speak about content and net neutrality. In addition to obviously referring you to Andrea's papers, I should add that if you want to catch up a little bit on broadband net neutrality, you're very welcome to read a book called Net Neutrality Towards a Co-Regulatory Solution by someone by the name of Christopher Marsden. So you're welcome to have a look at that book as a minor substitute for Andrea's not being able to be here. So after that advertisement, and with a reminder that we have 2 speakers before lunch, I'm going to invite Pastora to take the floor. Pastora, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And thank you very much to NMHH for the invitation to participate in this very interesting high-level conference on broadband. So what I wanted to share with you is a study on broadband quality that Cisco has sponsored and that actually we have been doing for the past 3 years. The study has been done by the Oxford University Said Business School and the University of Oviedo. 4 years ago, when we started this project, we started to look at the information around the quality of broadband, and we found relatively little information. So most statistics and analysis focus on the broadband penetration, but not so much on the broadband quality. But we already saw that households were doing very different things. There was much more video, bandwidth-hungry applications, and today, clearly, we're seeing an exponential growth in the traffic. You've probably seen also some of the figures that we publish in terms of the traffic growth, and more user-generated content being uploaded, and really a lot more video. So quality has become all more relevant. And in other words, if you don't have the high-quality broadband, consumers cannot really take advantage of all these next wave of content applications, and not just for entertainment, but it's also about productivity, and it's about the collaboration that is gained from all these applications and content. So clearly today we do have the focus on broadband, and we do welcome the broadband goals of the digital agenda, not just broadband for all, but also the high-speed broadband goals, which is also being adopted in many of the national plans that are being approved. And there are also statistics already, and regulators are focusing on measuring the quality. So this is just a contribution to the discussion, really. So as I said, we have sponsored this study for the past 3 years. It's a broadband quality index which combines both the quality but also the penetration, because we don't think a country can be called a broadband leader if you don't have both. And just before I shared some of the highlights of the study, a couple of words on the methodology. We have analyzed 40 million records on end-to-end speed tests, actual speed tests, which are outsourced from speed test. So an external database for 72 countries. As I said, it's a global study. And we also look at 239 cities, both populated cities and in rural areas. We have also included a segmentation by stage of economic development, and looked a little bit also at the quality divide. Are the cities getting much better quality than the rural areas? And finally, for the first time, we've looked at a very high level at mobile broadband quality. So, how do you define broadband quality? In order to benchmark whether a country has the broadband capability for the applications, we have defined 2 basic targets. One target would be the broadband for today. So what we're doing today in a very simplistic way, social networking, low-definition video streaming, basic video chatting, small file sharing, standard definition IPTV. And for those applications, if you simultaneously use 2 of them, we've come up with the requirement of download of 3.75 megabit per second, an upload of 1 megabit per second, and latency of 9.5 milliseconds. If we look at the applications of tomorrow, and again, these applications are here today. When we say about tomorrow is that they will become mass market, and our expectation is that that will be in the next 3 to 5 years. We're looking about visual networking, high-definition video streaming, consumer telepresence, large file sharing, and high-definition IPTV. And again, this is relatively conservative. The requirements would be download of 11.25 megabit per second, upload of 5 megabit per second, and latency of 60 milliseconds. So those are the two benchmarks that we use throughout our study. Now, one of the things that we've done this year as well is to introduce interactive tools. So actually, if a country says, well, for my country to be ready for today, actually I want to have much more than that because I want to be able to do all that simultaneously. So you can play around with the bandwidth and the quality parameters and see whether you're ready or not based on this research. So in terms of the results, if we look at the 72 countries, we have 14 countries that are so-called ready for the applications of tomorrow, as I've just defined. If we look at what our results in 2008, there was only one country at the time, which was Japan. So we have certainly improved. Many of those countries, the 14 countries, some of them are obviously European because Europe is actually doing pretty well. Netherlands, Germany, Bulgaria, some Eastern European countries as well. Where we also see that there is also a correlation between FTTH deployments and the way these countries are doing. So if you look at Korea, 52% FTTH households, Japan 34%, some of the European countries like Lithuania has 22% household connected to FTTH Sweden. So clearly there is a correlation between performing as a top leader in quality and FTTH deployments. South Korea, it's really done the highest jump in broadband quality and leadership this year. And if we look at the overall ranking, you see that this ranking combines both penetration and quality. So some of the countries that are doing very well in quality actually are not in the ranking because they are still pretty low in terms of penetration. Lithuania would be one example. And let me just show you, maybe it's a little bit of a busy slide, but just to give you a little bit of a visual of how we sort of rate the countries. So on the right, at the bottom, South Korea, it's obviously the top leader, both in penetration and quality. The countries that are more on the left corner above the line, quality leaders, and you have some of the Eastern European countries doing very well, as I said. Some of these countries have started to focus pretty much in bringing quality into their cities. So Latvia, Romania, Lithuania, and Hungary as well, becoming a quality leader. And then obviously we have some of the more Western economies and larger countries that are doing very well on penetration, but then are like Germany and the US that are also soon going to become as well quality leaders. These are just, I'm not able to show how the interactive tools work, but these are just some snapshots of what you can do with the tools. So basically, it's per country and per city, and you can check what are the applications that the city or the country is ready. So this is just a snapshot for Barcelona. So everything that is green are applications that can be very comfortable, be used by the consumer. Everything that is red is less. And then depending on the applications that you choose, you have the download or the upload or latency gap. And typically, the more bandwidth-hungry applications that you're introducing in the tool, the highest, in particular, the upload will be, because as we know, most of these applications are really requiring a lot of symmetric bandwidth. We also have like dashboard per country, which I think what's interesting about the dashboard is that it really shows the progression between 2008 and 2010. So Sweden, for example, is one of the leaders, broadband leaders in Europe. So you see that they have really substantially increased their download from 8 megabit to 16 megabit on average. And these are all aggregations. So obviously, you will have households in every and each of these countries that are doing already much better. This is aggregated figures. Upload of from 2 to 5, so a substantial increase in the upload. And they are basically ready for almost any application. By the way, this is a public tool which you can have access to in the web. And I'll provide the details to the conference. So the other thing that I find particularly interesting is to measure sort of the quality gap. So what we have is that 38 countries today have conquered what we say the digital quality divide, so that the quality in the cities and the less populated areas are similar, and in some cases it's even better in less populated cities, maybe because there is less congestion or there has been more focus in terms of the policies in bringing broadband in less populated areas. You have countries on the left which there is sort of a negative, there is sort of a quality divide, meaning that the quality in the cities is better than the quality outside the cities, and I wouldn't give too much weight to that. I think it's also, for example, if you take examples like Germany or France, it's also because there is a lot of deployment taking place right now in some of the cities and more populated areas like FTTH. Actually, France didn't have a quality divide last year, and they do have this year, so that's maybe a reflection.